The 2009 Mac Pro is the best Mac Pro you can buy, period. So you may have noticed that there are a couple things different here. And you're right, I got a haircut. Also new is that I have a sponsor. Special thanks to SCD Keys for sponsoring this video. I'll have more information for you at the end. So we've looked at some very cheap MacBooks on this channel. We've looked at a $200 white MacBook, a $150 MacBook Pro, and frankly, that kind of money isn't going to get you very much in terms of performance. You'll be stuck with Core 2 Duos for the most part unless you find a spectacular deal. But if we turn to older Mac Pros, the options are quite a bit more interesting. This Mac Pro is a 2009 base model with a 2.66 GHz quad-core Xeon. This particular one has this stock NVIDIA GT120 graphics card with 512 megabytes of VRAM, a 640 gigabyte 7200 RPM hard drive, and a pretty decent 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. To be honest, that was the main reason that I bought this particular computer. See, 16 gigabytes of RAM in a computer that only cost me $250 is pretty crazy. That's actually some good value coming from an Apple computer. In addition, this Mac Pro has something that no other modern Mac has. Are you ready? User upgradability. That's right, everything in this computer is upgradable, from graphics cards. Yes, it uses standard desktop graphics cards, though compatibility is not guaranteed, to RAM, to storage, thanks to the 4 upgradable drive bays. Even the processor is held in a handy modular tray assembly that makes replacing CPUs and RAM a cinch. This means that your $250 Mac Pro, which is pretty good as it is in stock configuration, can become something really special if you're willing to tinker. More on that later. Frankly, the 2009 Mac Pro is the best classic cheese grater Mac Pro that you can really buy. 2008 and earlier Mac Pros are cheaper than the 09 by a small amount, but they are limited in their lifespan. They use pretty old processors, they have a different internal design, and are limited to El Capitan on their operating system. The 2009 is in an interesting position, however. See, on paper it too is limited by firmware to El Capitan, while the 2010 Mac Pro, which is highly sought after, is still actively supported in High Sierra. But here's the thing, the 2009 Mac Pro, model identifier 4,1, is nearly identical to the 2010 Mac Pro, model identifier 5,1. The only significant differences are the processors and the firmware, and of course, the newer one being supported in High Sierra. Fortunately, there is a firmware patch which allows you to change the model identifier in your 2009 Mac Pro to 5,1. This then allows you to run High Sierra on your 2009 Mac Pro because, as far as the operating system knows, it's running on a 2010. Now, additionally, this also allows you a wider range of compatible processors. Now, I haven't had time yet to fiddle around with the hardware of this device. I'm still using it in its stock configuration as it arrived. But in the future, I will be doing some upgrades to the graphics, the storage, and the CPU. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to see those updates. Anyway, this particular Mac Pro is really not half bad in its stock configuration. I ran Cinebench on it and it scored a very respectable 420 CB. The score was with the Nehalem architecture Xeon W3520. For perspective, that's about the same score as a late 2011 MacBook Pro 15 with a 2nd gen quad-core i7. That's really not too bad, and it's especially impressive when you realize that this Mac Pro was only $250, whereas a late 2011 MacBook Pro still fetches about $600 with decent upgrades, especially with larger hard drives and 16 gigs of RAM. This thing does fall flat in the graphics department. Its GT120 is anemic, and its half gig of VRAM isn't nearly enough for 2018. Fortunately, the graphics card is upgradable, and these specialized Mac Pro cards still fetch about $50 on eBay, so we can sell it and put the money towards a much better card. Now, when it comes to GPU compatibility, I'm going to be doing a more in-depth look, but it's not guaranteed that any old card will work. As a general rule of thumb, the AMD RX series should work in most cases, and Nvidia has released drivers for its 10 series graphics cards. So recent hardware is most likely going to work, although it does depend on manufacturers. I'll be doing a deeper dive into that when I do some more upgrades to this machine in the future. So I've been using this machine in its stock configuration in Final Cut Pro to edit this entire video, and it's been running just fine. The Nehalem processor does struggle a little bit when throwing a whole bunch of rendering at it, but as I said, it runs similar to a 2011 15-inch MacBook Pro, which costs twice as much as this computer. I really don't have too much to complain about in terms of performance, and the nice thing about this computer is that if performance doesn't meet expectations, you can very easily upgrade it. If money is no object, you could buy a dual processor tray and effectively double your performance with dual W3520 Xeons. It's this wide array of options that makes the 09 Mac Pro such a tantalizing option. You can get into a machine like this for as little as $250, and you can upgrade it as you go. Add SSDs, more hard drives, PCI expansion cards, graphics cards, upgraded processors, RAM, the list goes on. If you're looking to get into video editing with something that's cheap but capable, a machine like this is a really great option because you can use it in its stock $250 configuration just fine. And then as you save up money, you can put in SSDs, you can add all sorts of things to make this computer a much better experience, as well as increase its lifespan. Despite its shortcomings, old graphics, mechanical hard drive, absolutely enormous size, and heralding from an era where this was a premier high-end smartphone, this Mac Pro really is outstanding value. I mean, for $250, I'm about 99% certain there's no better value Apple computer than a 2009 Mac Pro. It's kinda incredible that you can get 16 gigs of RAM and a quad-core hyper-threaded Xeon for this kind of money. I do have some pretty significant plans for this device, so make sure you guys stay tuned for those updates. We're going to upgrade the processor, the graphics, the storage, as well as put Windows 10 on it to create the ultimate budget build. And speaking of Windows 10, today's sponsor, SCD Keys, is bringing you guys some very, very good deals on Windows 10. Right now, using the link in the description, you can buy Windows 10 for just $14. Wow, that's crazy. Also, if you use my discount code, you'll get an additional 10% off. That is in the description as well. Wowee, that sure is a steal. What's that? I'm a sellout? Well, I don't really think so. You know, you gotta pay the bills. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, make sure to join my subreddit. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to like, you know, all that stuff. Oh, and I'm using my Twitter now, so go follow me, @Miani. Go ahead and do that. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.